Green grass and warmer temps only mean one thing. Spring is near. Turkey Tips and Tactics, brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, starts now. This first episode, we're going to go over season prep. What do we need to look for? What are the turkeys doing? Where are the turkeys at? So we can be ready for opening day of turkey season. The first thing I want to say is really simple. You have to find the birds. It may be based upon hunts that you did last year or 2 years ago. Where were the birds at then? Where were you seeing birds in the fall and in the winter? Where were they flocked up at? That's a great place to start. If you do happen to find where the birds are roosting or in that general vicinity and you can get your eyes on them, that's always going to be to your benefit. Because after the birds hit the ground, a lot of times what happens is the hens and the toms are all together. If there are multiple male birds there, they're going to chase each other around and try to establish what we call a pecking order. Who's going to be the boss hog that day? And once that's established, you'll start to see the birds settle down. They'll go right back into feed mode. The toms are going to be showing their stuff, strutting all around them hens. And most generally, when you see one hen float one direction, that's the direction the birds are going to go. When we talk about geography and finding where the bird's roosting, it's a key. Like I mentioned, the Midwest, it can be a lot easier to find because it's a lot open. You can see. So you don't have to necessarily use your ears as much as your eyes. In the West, a lot of times you have to concentrate on your ears. Listen for them birds to gobble. Because a lot of times those birds will gobble throughout the morning, even after they hit the ground, especially earlier in the year. If you get out east where there's a lot of hardwood timber, Pennsylvania, even Missouri, and places like that in southern Missouri where there's a lot of eastern turkeys, I can tell you right now, the birds will roost because there's a lot of tributaries. So there's a lot of places for a bird to roost. So rather than concentrate on seeing them, make sure you get in position to where you can hear them. You can hear where the birds are going to be. And then the next step is find out where the food source is around and which direction they're wanting to travel after they hit the ground. You know, there's multiple roost trees that usually reside on one property. You may have some hens that go roost over on this side of the farm, and the toms are roosting over here, and then they meet up in the morning. They don't necessarily always have to roost together. Out west, there may be one big cottonwood tree or a big tree in a basin right on the river that the birds are going to roost every night. It's because that's the roost tree that they have designated because there's not a lot to pick from. In the Midwest, where you have big oak trees and big cottonwood trees along wide open areas, their space is limited as well. So if you have two patches on one end of the field, there's a good chance you're going to have birds roosted on both sides. If you're one of those hunters that you see turkeys on the neighbor's property and you wonder why aren't they always over here, there are some things that you can do. It could be as easy as getting a brush hog or a lawnmower and mowing a small area for those birds to gravitate to, so they're going to feel safe. So a good strut zone creating a strut zone for a tom turkey to come strut during the middle of the day. Another way that you can bring turkeys and prepare for the turkey season is do a few controlled burns. Obviously be safe in doing so and know what the wind is doing and make sure there's enough moisture in the ground that it's not going to spread into a wildfire. But be smart about it. But you can burn small areas. That's going to help create little short growth, and the turkeys love to gravitate to those type of areas. When I say mowing or burning or cutting this, I'm not talking about a real large area in some cases. Sometimes too, it could be cutting a trail wide enough that the birds can basically maneuver through without a lot of effort. So making it easy, the path of least resistance. So at the end of that trail, cut a circle of, say 40 yards by 40 yards there. That'll give them birds a way to travel back and forth, and you'll see them birds will stand on one end of it and gobble, and they'll just work back and forth, trying to call a hen into them. But it also allows you to know you're putting a bird where you want them to be. So what happens is when last year you're watching that bird over on the neighbor's property, he didn't have a reason to be there. You just gave him a reason to be there. So you can go in there, set up, and really maximize all the work that you put in and be successful this spring. Okay, I'm going to go through the bullet points we just talked about. 1, you have to find the birds. Whether it been last fall, you saw birds there, go there, find the birds, know the birds are on the property somewhere. Next, what you have to do is you have to know where they're roosting. Find out what general area are these birds roosting in. And it may be different. You may have birds roosted over here and over here, but know that. And a lot of times you have to hear that, because in the early morning, there should be some birds gobbling before it gets daylight or right at daylight. In the mornings, some mornings, you may hear more gobbles than others. But just know that area, because a lot of times where there's one bird, there's going to be more, especially through the early season. Bullet point number 3, know the properties around you. Know your property and the properties around you. Know where the birds are going. They want to gravitate this way because why? Because there's food over there. Whether it's an alfalfa field, cut bean field, cut corn field, whatever the case, or just a cow pasture. The last bullet point is prepare at all costs. What I mean by that is cut those paths, take a lawnmower, brush hog, control burns, small areas, anywhere to basically provide them a place to be where they're going to feel safe. So whether it means cutting a long trail with an opening at the end with a mower, give yourself the best opportunity to be successful this spring. Thanks for watching the first episode of Turkey Tips and Tactics, brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse.